The world of Duel Links is a vast digital landscape that connects all of the animes in a cool and confusing way. Also, the characters from Vrains went explored in the core of Duel Links where new worlds hadn't yet been created, and caught glimpses of characters from other worlds like Yami Yugi and Yusei Fudo. And if that wasn't enough confusion, there are a bunch of cards and a zillion different methods of obtaining them. Some are easy, and some are very not. This video is going to collect some easily accessible normal and rare staples that can be useful in any deck. And get excited to miss even more cards when you fall asleep, because this list is a special one. We're talking about 25 cards instead of the usual 10. So buckle up, the KaibaCorp airship, the Duel Monsters greatness embarks now. Starting us off at number 25, we have number 68, Sanaphond the Sky Prison. This card is fantastic, and an important tech even in many tier decks. The ordering of this list is going to be a little looser than a tight hierarchy of 10, because it's just so long. But the reason we're starting off with Sanaphond is that despite its heavy usage, it is an extra deck monster, and a rank 8 at that. If you're committing 2 level 8s on the field, you've probably got other win conditions that don't involve Sanaphond, except for when your opponent is locked in on their graveyard. But let's chat about the Sky Prison. As mentioned, it's a rank 8 and a Dark Rock monster. It has 2100 attack and 2700 defense, and the fantastic effect to detach 1 material as cost to prohibit both players from summoning from the graveyard until the end of your opponent's next turn, and makes itself immune to destruction by card effects for the duration. It also gains 100 attack and defense for each monster in both graveyards, which is nice, but less critical to its staple status. Present in both the Infinite Ray and Fantastic Arc main boxes, you shouldn't encounter much trouble acquiring a copy of this card. And at number 24, we've got Security Orb, a battle trap that's been part of the game since the 2017 release of the Land of the Titans mini-box. When an enemy monster attacks, you can activate Security Orb to target the monster and switch it to defense mode. It's pretty basic battle protection, but Security Orb's second effect gives it more oomph. If Security Orb is destroyed by a spell or trap while it's on your field, you can destroy 1 monster in the field without targeting. This won't help if you set it turn 1 and your opponent opens with Mystical Space Typhoon before going into their plays, but it's a nice layer of added security. This card would be better if it weren't from Land of the Titans, which you'll probably never go through unless you really want Obedience Schooled. And if so, who could blame you? That card is much more fun. You can get Security Orb though through Selection Box Volume 1, which is nice, even if we're going to generally avoid special boxes for the purpose of this list, since they're not always available. And check this out, the number 23 spot on this list is shared by 5 different cards. They're all level 4 normal monsters with 2000 attack and 0 defense. If you're running a basic deck full of generic spells and traps, or normal monster support like Unexpected Die and Silent Doom, there's no reason not to run some of these kings. Let's meet the gang. Mech Knight Avram is a light psychic with the best flavor attacks in the game that can be acquired in the Future Circuit and Dimension of the Wizards boxes. Zombino is an Earth Zombie and can be exhumed from the Curse of Dread box and a Zombie Necromancy structure deck. Mystery Shell Dragon is a Dark Worm deployed from Cybernetic Rebellion main box and Blue Eyes Evolution structure deck. Leotron is an Earth Cybers from a Chronicle of Glory box, and finally Guken Suship Shari is a Fire Aqua from the Homeport and the Phoenix Blaze box. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this handful of non-effect monsters, because it's going to be a while before we see another one. There is actually one more on this list, but we're not going to cover it until a little bit later. Oh no, some of your most important cards are stuck in the graveyard and you need to recycle them. Don't use Recycle, use Jar of Avarice, the number 22 card on this list. Jar of Avarice is a normal trap that can be found in Chaotic Compliance box and Legendary Warrior structure deck. It has a simple effect of choosing 5 cards to shuffle from your graveyard back into your deck to draw 1. It's not the most convenient card in the world, but it's generically useful and good at what it does, which is restock your deck and give you a draw. Finding its way to number 21 on this list, we have Planet Pathfinder. This level 4 Earth machine with 1000 attack and defense can be found like Jar of Avarice and Chaotic Compliance box, as well as the Ancient Gear Awakening structure deck. It has a very simple effect, which is to attribute itself to search a field spell from your deck and add it to your hand. It'll cost you a normal summon, but if you need a field spell, and there are many situations where you might, Planet Pathfinder is both reliable and an easy option to obtain. Neo-Spacian Air Hummingbird is at number 20, a level 3 wind attribute wing beast monster with 800 attack and the versatile effect to gain 500 life points for each card in your opponent's hand. Since starting hands and Duel Links are 4 cards, using your 1 normal summon on Air Hummingbird will net you an extra 2000 life points, and as long as he hangs around, you can repeat this effect each turn. Released in the 2017 Galactic Origin main box, Air Hummingbird is made more accessible by its inclusion in the Neos Fusion structure deck. If you're running anything Neos related, you'll probably pick up a few copies of the structure deck for Neos Fusion spell and Elemental Hero Brave Neos. But Air Hummingbird can be a decent card in any strategy where the win condition is mostly surviving. It's even been in a few King of Games worthy deck lists that use the Grandpa's card skill to win by Exodia. And for number 19, we have Needlebug Nest. Hope everybody's ready to open up this can of worms, because Needlebug Nest is a normal trap originally made available way back in 2017's Land of the Titans minibox, but thankfully has been reprinted in the game more recently with Braver Victory main box for everyone who doesn't want to sink precious gems into a box with chase cards like Green Baboon, Defender of the Forest, and Raging Mad Plants. Needlebug Nest has the very simple effect to send the top 5 cards of your deck to the graveyard, which can be a fourth of your deck if you're running the standard minimum of 20 cards. The applications of Needlebug Nest are as limitless as there are strategies that use the graveyard, so it makes sense for Needlebug Nest to hold a dubious distinction of Limit 1, meaning if you choose to slot it in, you lose access to other powerful Limit 1 cards like Monster Reborn and Swords of Revealing Light. The fact that duelists do regularly make the trade is a credit to the stapleness of Needlebug Nest. Scapegoat hasn't been added to Duel Links yet, but haunting the number 18 spot on this list is its level 1 Dark Zombie retrain, Scapeghost. It's got 0 attack and defense, but it's a tuner, which is nice, and has the flip effect to summon enough Black Sheep tokens to fill your field. It's a decent defensive tech, easily obtainable from the 2019 Curse of Dread minibox, so maybe you can grab Zombino while you're hurting Goat Ghosts. At number 17, we've got another versatile card with a cool defensive tech. Eco Mystical Spirit of the Forest. Immediately available from the card trader, you won't have to spend any gems at all for this level 4 Earth plant with a decent low level stat line of 1700 attack and 1000 defense. That's nice, but why would you run Eco over the other 1700 attack normal summons like Axe Raider that at least let you flex their rarity over your opponent? Well, obviously, Eco has a useful effect, making this a very silly question. But this list has 25 entrants, and we've got to do something to make the descriptions different and interesting. But Eco's actual effect is to special summon itself from the hand in response to taking damage from an opponent's card effect. Once Eco hits the field this way, you can inflict the same amount of damage to your opponent, and then until the end of the turn, no one takes any additional effect damage. In the early days, Burn used to be very strong in Duel Links. So strong that on September 29th of 2020, Konami chose to halve the burn damage of many cards, like Lava Golem and Gaga Cowboy, to accommodate for Duel Links' diminished starting life points of only 4,000. This policy would go on to impact cards that they would later release, like Ring of Destruction and Magic Cylinder, but interestingly, not other cards, like Infernity Destroyer and Crimson Nova the Dark Cubic Lord. But anyway, Eco is always patiently waiting in hands to protect us, waiting for the day when burn is meta again, and it might rise to quell the burning land of effect damage. And speaking of cards that escape the partial halving of burn damage in Duel Links, definitely keep your eye on number 16, Bowganian. This level 3 Dark Machine with 1300 attack and 1000 defense is actually currently one of the most exclusive cards in Duel Links, but the one copy obtainable by most players is a good staple for burn stall strategies. It's a rank up reward for reaching level 14 with Yami Merrick, making that first copy cake to get. In December of 2022, Konami ran a limited time gift campaign where players could log in each day and choose a gift from a slate of 3 items. Players could choose between Bowganian and 200 rare stones or 1 rare ticket, despite the torturous little eyeball's elusiveness. Hopefully, more copies of Bowganian will make their way into the game, but even at 1, it's worth considering. During your standby phase, it burns your opponent for a flat 600, which might seem small, but adds up really fast. How many sets have you won with only a smattering amount of life points remaining? How many sets would you have lost if your opponent had a Bowganian? But don't worry, if by some chance against chance someday Duel Links falls into Bowganian's burn meta, we can stack Eco Mystical Spirit of the Forest as a hard counter. The low rarity stable to possess our number 15 spot comes back from Flame of the Tyrant, the second mini box set to release in Duel Links. Possessed Dark Soul is a level 3 Dark Fiend with 1200 attack, and the wild effect where it contributes itself to take control of all face-up level 3 lower monsters your opponent controls. While monsters below level 4 are often not the highest priority targets, the potential gain off of a big Possessed Soul activation is incredible, and unparalleled even for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links of 2017 era. Back when Relinquish was meta, which was a long time ago, any old Duel Links player remembers when it was a big deal that the second Pegasus event let you run multiple copies of Relinquish. Possessed Dark Soul was a capital threat. In the modern age, it's a great tech to have in your pocket, with cards like Warm Worm, Legion the Fiend Jester, and Agent of Creation Venus. Flame of the Tyrant is one of the better old boxes to invest in, especially during a sale. But if you'd rather get it from the more recent Witch's Sorcery main box, that's also a great option that'll get you some Witchcrafter and Protoplant cards. And at number 14, we have a normal spell card called Share the Pain. Attainable from the 2019 main box Blazing Rose, you can activate this card by tributing 1 monster. Then your opponent must tribute a monster from their field for no effect. On the surface, this card seems like a very slow way to go -1 in card advantage, but on the flip side, this card is almost an unavoidable monster removal. Share the Pain doesn't target and does bypass destruction, and only a few cards have the distinction of being immune to tributing. There are ways to mitigate your own tribute costs, and Share the Pain will probably slot best into decks that flood the field with bodies, or want their monsters in the graveyard. Also, if you have a temporary way to take control of your opponent's monster, like Brain Control or Jowls of Dark Demise, Share the Pain can synergize. Arriving with much fanfare at number 13 is Angel Trumpeter. This card came to Duel Links at the tail end of 2019 in the Future Horizon main box, and was circulated again a little later in Actors Theater. A level 4 Earth Plant Normal monster, it has a respectable attack and defense of 1900 and 1600. What sets Angel Trumpeter apart from other level 4s with decent attack is its status as a tuner. As mentioned earlier in this list, there is a support for normal monsters, including cards like Unexpected Die to summon normal monsters from the deck, and Silent Doom to summon them from the grave. Then we have more cards like Dark Factory Mass Production to recycle normals to hand, and even cards like Faustian Bargain that can special normals to advance your own board while picking apart your opponents. We've got cards like Rescue Rabbit and Summary Tour Ride and Symbols of Duty and Creature Seizure. Angel Trumpeter occupies an important niche in the world of Duel Links normal monsters because when it's combined with other level 4 normals that aren't tuners, you have the option to go into level 8 Synchros and rank 4 XCs. Maybe someday Konami will add number 85 Crazy Box to Duel Links. And the number 12 card on this list is great at gumming up the works whenever your opponent tries to mess with your Synchro monsters. It's Tuning Gum. This level 1 Dark Fiend with 400 attack and 1200 defense is a tuner, and a great target for level 1 support cards like 1-for-1 and Swing of Memories if you've got a way to commit other bodies to the field to ignite your Synchro plays. Not only can it banish itself from the grave to negate an effect targeting your Synchro monster, but can also turn another monster on field into a tuner. The impact of this is dampened somewhat since it's a tuner itself, and most Synchro monsters require specifically one tuner. But there are a few boss monsters that do need two, so consider Tuning Gum as an option for them. Tuning Gum tends to synergize well with DDD and Shooting Star Dragon decks, and released into Duel Links in the 2019 main box Dark Dimension. And we're going to keep talking about Synchros for number 11 because this spot goes to Crystron Ametrix. This level 5 water machine is a generic Synchro with 2500 attack and 1500 defense, and it also has a fantastic effect. On Synchro Summon, Ametrix can shift all of your opponent's face-up special summon monsters to defense position. Ametrix was added to Duel Links in the 2019 main box Cybernetic Rebellion, and later brought back in Fantastic Arc. While this was before the format's advent of Link monsters, which cannot be changed to defense position, Ametrix is still a good option. Its floating effect to revive another Crystron monster in destruction doesn't really boost its resume as a generic staple, but its board-wide effect and considerable attack make it a great tech in many situations. And now we're going to be kicking off the top 10 of our top 25 with something completely unexpected. That's right, a Pendulum monster. Dragodies, the Empowered Warrior, is a level 4 light warrior monster at Pendulum Scale 2 with 1500 attack and defense that was introduced in 2022's Cross Dimension main box, and it's quite an accomplishment for it to make this list. Pendulum monsters are notoriously difficult to navigate outside of dedicated Pendulum decks, and while a few key exceptions do exist, most of them are too high a rarity to feature in this video. But Dragodies does offer some extra utility on account of its pendulumness. When played as a spell, it gives you the option to discard one card during the damage step to have the attack and defense of your opponent's attacking monster. This effect is permanent and persists even after Dragodies leaves the field, and can be repeated as many times as you have cards to discard for it. Like all Pendulum monsters, when Dragodies is destroyed, it goes face up into the extra deck rather than the graveyard. This is inconvenient because unless you're playing dedicated Pendulums, the graveyard is much more accessible than their run of the extra deck. Dragodies, however, does circumvent this a little. On destruction, you can add a warrior or spellcaster to a 2000 attack from deck to hand, which helps offset the cost of running a Pendulum as a generic staple. Unfortunately, there's not a huge amount of documented play for Dragodies, but the potential is definitely there, and it felt right to include a Pendulum in this video for a variety if no other reason. And at number 9, we have the Wind Attribute generic rank 5 XCs Wind Up Arsenal Zenmaioh. Originally attainable in the 2020 Voltage of Metal mini box and later in Phantom of Rebellion, this machine with 2600 attack isn't the easiest to summon, but has a great effect. By detaching an overlay unit, Zenmaioh can target 2 set cards and destroy them both. While this effect won't pop face-up back row, it can clear set spells and traps and monsters, and potentially both at the same time if your opponent has them sitting on the board. While level 5 isn't the easiest level to stack on your field, Zenmaioh has generic summoning requirements, and only needs 2 as materials. It's a decent option for Cyber Dragon decks, which excel at summoning level 5 machines, and also has seen considerable play in Armed Dragon strategies, particularly when enabled by Armed Dragon Thunder level 5. And at number 8, we have another normal monster support card. One we very purposely did not mention when discussing Angel Trumpeter, Zombino, Mech Knight Aram, and the gang, etc., to avoid spoiling the surprise. It's World Legacy Guardragon Mardark. Are you surprised? Everyone go to the comments and talk about how surprised you are so suddenly to stare down this level 9 Wind Dragon with 2600 attack and 3000 defense, but do so calmly. Mardark has a prey instinct and reduces the stats of opponents' monsters by 500 for every dragon you control, with access to an easy self-special summon from hand by banishing 2 normal monsters from your hand or grave. Mardark can be splashed into any strategy centered around normal monsters, and works particularly well with World Chalices, which was intentional, and with the Blue Eyes White Dragon, which is incidental but more scary because of Duel Links' fondness for bestowing onto Kaiba's favorite dragon game-changing skills. On top of this, if World Legacy Guardragon Mardark is destroyed by battle or card effect, you can search your deck for a level 9 with a different original type and attribute from Mardark. Honestly, that part's not usually as useful, but could rise in utility with the introduction of one other good generic level 9 target. Mardark can be acquired in the Blazing Rose main box, or picked up even more easily from the Blue Eyes Evolution structure deck. And helping complete our list at number 7 is not the Equip Spell 7 complete, but it does feature a machine monster in its artwork. We're talking about the normal spell Transmodify. This card is actually one of the most widely acquirable cards in Duel Links. Currently available from mini tickets, the Action Duel event, which sometimes repeats, plus both the Soul Burner and Yugo starter decks. It first released on Halloween of 2017, and would prove a persistent threat that would haunt the format more over time as its pool of targets deepened. So much so that as of this script writing, it's locked at limit 3, making it jostle with metal staples like Ice Dragon's Prison, Floodgate Trap Hole, and Beatrice Lady the Eternal for spots and deck lists. But that's enough context, let's talk about what Transmodify does. Like many older cards that became suddenly dangerous, its effect is simple. Send a monster you control to the graveyard, then cheat a monster from your deck one level higher with the same type and attribute. Maybe you're sending Mystic Shineball or Lee the World Chalice Fairy for the Agent of Creation Venus to extend your link plays. Maybe you're deploying Transmodify to scale up your Infernities. Maybe you've gone mad with power and are clearing your Dark Magician for Dark Magician of Chaos. Maybe you've completely lost it and want to BM your opponent by trading your Insect Knight for Dungeon Worm. Maybe you need to be stopped, and maybe that's why Konami was thinking that when they put Transmodify at limit 3. Anyway, there's a lot of fun shenanigans enabled by this card, so yeah, spot number 7, well earned. Rolling out from number 7 to number 6 on this list, we've got another card with a futuristic technology aesthetic, PSY-Framelord Zeta. Despite the vibes, this level 7 light synchro that requires genetic materials is a psychic type and not a machine. That makes this transition a little silly, but Slifer have mercy. This is the 20th card of this video, so anything goes, really. PSY-Framelord Zeta has 2500 attack, 1800 defense, and excellent disruption capabilities. During either player's turn, you can target and banish Zeta and an attack position special summon monster your opponent controls until your next standby phase. Your opponent can play around this by special summoning in defense mode, but that's already inconvenient and not an option for link plays. This alone would be enough to make Zeta fantastic, but there's actually more tricks at the disposal of the psychic criminal. And don't worry, we'll be going into that in just a second. But first, the tricks. If Zeta is in your graveyard, you can target another PSY-Frame card buried within it, and return Zeta to the extra deck to recur the other PSY-Frame to your hand. This effect is utilized less often in Duel Links because the excellent hand trap PSY-Frame Gear Gamma hasn't yet made it into the game. But there are a few options to help get Zeta back to the extra deck while going +1. Strategically, Zeta is great at dodging removal effects or providing an alternative method for clearing enemy monsters with destruction immunity. The PSY-Frame archetype is full of cards with great effects, but narratively it centers around a normal monster, PSY-Frame Driver, a level 6 light psychic with 2500 attack and 0 defense. Its powered up forms like Zeta are a combination of PSY-Frame Driver with the various PSY-Frame Gear cards that allow it to respond to enemy plays. According to its flavor text, PSY-Frame Driver is hostile to the security forces. This archetype, often abbreviated to S-Force, is a cohort of light and dark cyber cops that first debuted in Yu-Gi-Oh! Around 7 years after they were first mentioned in PSY-Frame Driver's flavor text. They are numerous, but so are their adversaries, which include the PSY-Frame Driver users, the Time Thieves, and the TCG Link staple, IP Masquerena. But as cool as all that is, this entry is about PSY-Framelord Zeta, who was first made available in Duel Links at the close of 2019 in the Future Horizon main box. We're summoning for 3 monsters for spot number 5. They're all level 4s with similar roles and are all super easily acquirable, which is why they share this spot. Tenkabito Shien is a Fire Pyro with 1500 attack and 1000 defense that's unaffected by trap cards. Elemental Hero Wildheart is an Earth Warrior with 1500 attack and 600 defense that's unaffected by trap cards. Mirage Dragon is a light dragon with a little different effect. It's got a higher stat line of 1600 and slightly different effects where your opponent is unable to activate trap cards during the battle phase. This is similar to Shien and Wildheart, and although Mirage Dragon is exposed to traps outside the battle phase, it extends its protection to your entire field while it's active. As mentioned, all of these cards are very gettable, with all 3 being exchangeable for tickets. Mirage Dragon and Xian can be acquired from the card trader, while Wild Heart comes in the starter deck for Jaden/Yubel and Supreme King Jaden. It's also a drop from the original Jaden Yuki, and the rank of reward for grinding his level all the way up to 3. You can also get Mirage Dragon as a drop from Mizar, but between tickets and the card trader, there's no reason you'd ever need to. These cards are excellent staples to run if you hate running into trap cards, and can be easily combinable with a low rarity staple equip card Power the Guardians to add battle and effect destruction immunity to their resistances. We're going to talk about Power the Guardians, but believe that there was a time in Duel Links when normal summon Elemental Hero Wildheart and playing equip spell was a dangerous board. It's still useful, honestly, especially in conjunction with more modern techs, and will end duels fast if you're caught off guard. The number 4 card on this list has 100 attack and defense, but thinking a monster's strength is all in its stats is so Duelist Kingdom Seto Kaiba coded. A/D Changer is a level 1 light warrior with an incredible graveyard effect to banish itself to change the battle position of one monster on the field. This effect is highly versatile, and doesn't require a special way of getting AD Changer to the graveyard. If it's in the grave, it's good to go. You can mill it for your Light's Horn strategy, you can discard it for your removal traps, you can even use it as a fusion material from deck with the popular archetype fusion spells like Red Eye's Fusion and Neo's Fusion. AD Changer is an excellent tag, and can be easily acquired through tickets and the card trader. No need to spend any gems at all. Watch out to Tengabito Xian, because number 3 spot goes to Samurai Destroyer. This is a level 7 Earth Machine Synchro monster with generic requirements, 2600 attack and 1400 defense. It was added in 2019 and is currently available in the Dark Dimensions and Fantastic Arc main boxes. Samurai Destroyer locks your opponent out of activating card effects until the end of the damage step on attack declaration, and even goes one step further by negating the effects of its attack target for the same duration. If Samurai Destroyer's card text ended there, it would still be on this list, but it has a fantastic floating effect. When caused to leave the field by your opponent's card effect, you can special summon a machine from your graveyard. The observant Duel Logs viewer may at this point note, Samurai Destroyer is itself a machine. Correct. If destroyed by card effect, Samurai Destroyer can revive itself. This isn't perfect protection. A good banishment will prevent Samurai Destroyer from coming back, but that will still allow another machine lingering in the graveyard to hit the field. Point is, Samurai Destroyer is great in Duel Links and is also an easy get. Shockingly, number 2 on this list of low rarity staples in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links is a continuous trap. Traditionally the slowest and most vulnerable class of card, Stygian Dirge makes up for being what it is by packing a powerful floodgate effect. All monsters controlled by your opponent have their level reduced by 1. This will drastically skew your enemy XC's plays by reducing the rank they're able to go into, and hard counters synchro strategies by forcing your opponent to math. If that wasn't bad enough, if there are a wide enough range of synchro levels in their extra deck, the math equation might have no answer. It won't stop links or fusions, but hindering half your opponent's extra deck plays isn't bad. Even if your opponent has the Cosmic Cyclone or Mystical Space Typhoon to clear this card, those are resources that could have been put towards other ends. So it's a good idea to run Stygian Dirge with other back rows that might enjoy some baited protection. Added back in 2018's Valiant Souls, this card was reprinted in the 2024 Striker Expansion main box. And before going into the number 1 normal/rare tier Duel Links staple, it's time to rattle off a few more low rarity honorable mentions that would have quickly found a place on this list if we hadn't already talked about them in previous videos. Still, they're worth bringing up again because as big as this list is, it wouldn't be complete without them. We already mentioned Power the Guardians a few times in the script, but it's an equip spell that adds a counter every time the equipped monster does battle. The monster gains fighter attack per counter, and if it would be destroyed, you can remove 1 counter from Power the Guardians instead, conferring partial battle and card protection destruction immunity. Summon Breaker is a field spell that causes the turn to advance to the end phase after the turn player's 3rd successful summon. Hollow Light Barrier lets you discard to become immune to all damage for the rest of the turn, guaranteeing you'll make it to the next one. Battle and Boxer Veil can be activated from the hand in response to damage, causing you to regain life points equal to how much you took, and let you special summon it to the field. This defensive technique synergized really well with skills that require certain thresholds of damage to be activated. Card of the Soul lets you search a monster from your deck whose attack plus defense equals your life points. This card is difficult to use in an 8,000 life point format, but the 4,000 total in Duel Links is way more friendly, allowing for one-turn targets like Sacred Phoenix, Red Eye's Black Meteor Dragon, Doom King Armageddon, and many others. And Bacon Saver is a great monster to send to the graveyard since it can be banished after attack declaration to negate the battle. You might not be able to get a Royal Rare White Princess in Master Duel, but in Duel Links, well, you can't get a prismatic of this representative of rare royalty there either. But that's only because it's so easy to get, and that means it's the number 1 spot on this list. White Princess is a level 3 light zombie with a surprisingly decent 1600 attack and the customary zombie 0 defense. You can quickly grab 3 copies from the 2022 mini box Energy of Giga Rays, and you'll want them too, because this card is very good. First, we'll get the effects you probably won't be using out of the way. White Princess's name becomes Skull Servant in the graveyard, and on summon, you can send a White Prince from your deck to the grave. But what makes White Princess so good, incredible outside of dedicated Skull Servant decks is its quick effect, which can be activated during either turn. By sending White Princess from your hand or field to the grave, you can lower the attack and defense of all of your opponent's monsters by 300 times their level or rank. Those blue as white dragons that never seem to leave the Duel Links ladder? Yeah, it doesn't matter how many your opponent has. Their attack is now 1200. Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Libe wants to swing its 6000 attack per game. That's only 2700 after White Princess, which is still considerable but won't OTK. White Princess's light typing also provides great synergy with strategies that can leverage chaos monsters, like Thunder Dragons and the determination to fight Gandora. Honestly, White Princess is pretty much good in any deck that has a space for it, hence its coronation at the top of this list. Alright, and that's the list. There are a ton of good, normal, and rare cards in Duel Links with even ways to use them. So, if you think I missed your favorite, or if you have any ideas for future videos just like this one, I'd love to hear about them down in the comments.